My name is Candace Horvack, and I hope that I can bring some more confidence and self-love to the world via my selfie workshops. So I think my experience with social media is a little bit different than like the average consumer. I have an account that's verified with over 2 million followers, and that's like where I've generated most of my income from in the past. I also have a personal profile that is just more friends, family, and like core beliefs and like messages that I try to push. That's a lot less marketable, if you will. And that one's at about 30,000. That one, like, I haven't even tried to, and that's like a number that I've just like organically grown. So I think it's like two really good examples of what social media can be used for. It can be used for business and to monetize and like make a very serious income off of. It can get you notoriety if you want to be like an influencer and get a check mark and be like, you know, Insta famous, or you can just use it as like a personal profile to show the world like this is who I am and have like your friends, family, and colleagues view you. So I think it's really important to know what like your goal is, because obviously if you're trying to like brand yourself as a public figure, if you will, or get into being an influencer, that's gonna be very different than if you want to just have like a respectable profile and get like a job or a date, or just not look silly on the internet forever. I find it easy now to be myself on social media. I think in the beginning it's very hard to be authentic when you have like 10 followers, because like there's a little bit of you that feels judged or feels insecure, and it's a lot easier for me to post subpar content on my 2 million account because I know it's still gonna get a lot of engagement and a lot of comments, and so it doesn't really like hit that little ego part of me. And then my 30,000 account, like I'm like, ooh, is this good enough to post? Because like if you have less followers, you have to have like really top-notch content, otherwise you don't get followers or likes or engagement, and you're like, is this me or is it the content? And it's like a little bit of both. So I think it's kind of one of those like fake it till you make it things, and you kind of just have to like, you know, fake that confidence, and eventually the followers and engagement and money will come. Oh man, so fear of judgment when building a social media account. I think like everyone has that, and if anyone says that they don't, they're probably lying. Everyone wants to be liked, everyone wants to like have followers and comments and engagement. For some reason there's just like this positive reinforcement that we just crave as humans, and that's like on all fronts, like not just social media. Social media just kind of like puts it out there. So I think before social media, like no one was like, how many friends do you have, right? Or how many people actually like this outfit? It wasn't like visualized, but now you have this number that's staring you in the face. Like 500 people liked this photo, and if that's not 500, then I'm not satisfied. So I think you kind of have to take the numbers out of it and just make sure that it's like something that you're proud of. Like, are you posting a message that you truly believe in? If let's say like you're trying to be an influencer, like is this how I want to like physically present myself to the world? Like, do I look put together and confident, and like I'm showing self-love, not like I rolled out of bed and just like took a selfie to take a selfie kind of a thing. So.
And what about those people that aren't trying to be influencers?
So I don't think that you have to try to be an influencer to care about social media. So from studies that I've read, it's like something like 77% of people check out a profile before they go on a date with somebody. And I know most young people, especially millennials, are on all those dating apps. So it's like literally before you get a romantic relationship or like even start one, they're checking you out on social. It's something like 60% of employers will try to snoop on a potential new hires' profiles, like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, what have you. So it's literally the difference nowadays between getting the job or getting the date and not. So it does directly like affect your day-to-day life as a real person. So it's not like you have to want to be famous or an influencer for these things to matter.
And what advice would you give somebody that's just starting out and wants to actually develop an Instagram or profile?
I think when you're first starting out, it's really important to have a plan. So I actually didn't have a plan for either of my accounts. Like in retrospect, I wish I did, because it would look a lot cleaner and more professional. I'm like fortunate because my other account is like a public figure that it kind of just grew to like this monster on its own. But I'm finding with my personal account that does have only like the 30,000 followers that I have to make sure that everything kind of looks clean and uniform. So you want to pick a theme, you want to pick like a color palette, as like silly as that sounds, if you're trying to be an influencer. If you're trying to just be a regular person with like a respectable account, then just make sure that all of your content is something that you want everyone to see, like a future employer, your family or friends. It's like something that you can be proud of, and it's not something like 10 years later that you're gonna like really regret taking, because you don't know if someone's screenshotting that and putting it all over the web. Like once it's out there, it's out there. So make sure that you're not posting. So I think when it comes to building a profile, if you want to be an influencer or a public figure, it's important to know like what are you trying to bring awareness to, or what are you trying to sell, and then you go after that market. So it's not like I'm gonna be vegan one day and then I'm gonna be like the carnivore diet the next day. You kind of have to decide like what your message is first, and then you go after that market by using hashtags and just keeping like a uniform profile, following similar profiles and engaging with them. So it depends on like what your end goal is, because they're very different like strategy plans. Oh man, so advice for social media. I think a lot of guys actually don't know what to post. I think a lot of men struggle with social media more than women. Because there is a double standard when it comes to social media, and specifically selfies. So a girl can take a selfie, or a woman can take a selfie, and like that's kind of normal, and everyone kind of like accepts it. But if a man does it, like he's vain, or he's silly, or he looks ridiculous. So I think we kind of have to like break down that barrier, and like why is that such a double standard? I think most men are so uncomfortable in front of the camera that it just shows, and then that just like brings on like the negative attention. So I think it's a matter of just like taking a deep breath and starting off with like taking pictures with your friends, or if you have a hobby, like let's say like you go hunting. This is a great example. You can take pictures while you're out in nature, and it's gonna look a lot less weird and vain than if you're in the mirror and you're kind of flexing and posing and like no one really knows what to do with that. However, if you are into hunting and you're trying to like land a date, know where to post the hunting photos, because like you don't want to be on a dating app with a dead deer. That's like really not a good look. But if it's on like your Instagram or your Facebook, like that's a lot more acceptable. So just knowing what content can go where is also important. I think when it comes to men and being authentic and fearing judgment, especially on social media, I don't know, I just think we have like a long history of saying like they're supposed to be strong and like hyper masculine, and there's not really a lot of like masculinity in taking a selfie. So I think like that's like where a lot of the disconnect comes from. So I think especially with men, it's really important to highlight hobbies and interests and like tangible things rather than just like a picture of your face. I think that, I mean, social media is something that's like unavoidable now. Like everyone looks at social media, like your employers, your dates, your friends, your family, like everybody. So to not have a digital footprint right now is kind of silly. Like you need it to advance in life. So if you put yourself out there authentically without fear of judgment, and like you have like these photos that like say who you are, like you kind of like now exist. It's like if you don't do it, you don't exist. And it's silly, but unfortunately that is just like the rules of the game currently. So I think it just helps you feel more confident, even in like your day-to-day life. Like it sounds a little bit ridiculous, but if you have this profile and like it's getting you all of these things that you want in life, then you're gonna have a better attitude in your real life off of your phone or off of your computer. I do have a lot of women that do ask for advice because they do see the following even on my smaller account, because 30,000 is a lot for like the average person. And I think a lot of women struggle with, especially in my age demographic, because I was there for MySpace, and that wasn't really the best example of like how to have a profile. Like there's a lot of things we did wrong. So I think when social media first came out, like everything was like very forced and nothing was authentic. It was like, how do I make a duck face? Like this was a thing. And now we're looking back and like, I wish I didn't have it because it's still on MySpace and I can't log in and I can't delete it, and now it's out there forever. So I think my biggest advice to women is to just like try to be natural. Don't go with trends. Especially if you're not trying to be an influencer, just like be your happy, like natural self, and just like show photos and videos that are about like your day-to-day life and what you find important. So I think as like we move forward as like a culture, like more and more people are getting immersed in social media and like the digital age and less involved in day-to-day like conversations and meeting people. It's almost like more uncommon and like almost weird and creepy if like you introduce yourself to someone in real life that you've never met and like try to start a conversation versus if you follow someone on social media and like DM them. Like that's more socially acceptable. You're like, oh my gosh, what a creep. Like they came up to me at the coffee shop and like wanted to know my name. Like now I have to make sure they're not following me in my car. Like there's been a shift in like that paradigm. So I think like it's more important than ever to have a good social media and have something that like says like, no, this is who I am. I care about how I look. I put effort into myself. I do practice self-love and I am trying to be a better person and I'm trying to grow in this way and that way. And not like I'm just like this lazy person that doesn't care about anything, because unfortunately your profile says a lot more than you do when you're out in the real world. I think that social media can offer a lot to society as a whole, especially if you do have a very large platform, because that you can bring awareness to things that might not have like seen the light otherwise. A lot of people like don't know about maybe certain environmental issues or certain humanitarian issues or even like local events that are happening. So I think it's really easy to feel isolated in like this day and age. So social media can be like a really good way to like get information and actually like apply that to real life, whether you want to donate, volunteer, or just simply like go to community events. So I think authenticity and confidence are two very different things. I think that for a while you should always start with being authentic, because if you don't, then you're gonna find yourself in like a downward spiral and then you can't really like fix that account, especially if you're trying to be a public figure or an influencer. But I think the confidence comes. The confidence comes even if like let's say you're not getting all of these checks and endorsements and followers, but you're slowly seeing like steady growth in like one or more areas, then it's just gonna naturally build. You know what I mean? Like you can be confident about something that like you truly believe in. It's really hard to be confident about something that like you don't back. So if like you're pushing an agenda just because it's trending and like you don't back it, you're gonna feel like that imposter syndrome almost, because it's not really what you think or feel or believe. So start with authenticity, and then the confidence will kind of just go hand in hand with that eventually. Social media is really tricky when it comes to authenticity. I think, yeah, it can be great to kind of like finding your voice or what you believe or like who you really are, quote unquote, but you kind of have to have like a general idea. Otherwise, like you can kind of easily get sucked into other people's messages, and not everyone's messages are like true or authentic, or maybe have like the best agenda. So I think it's important to like do a lot of your own like inner work and meditating and finding out who you are before like you just like jump into social media to try to discover like this personality. Top 5 benefits of having high social media standards. You're way more likely to get the job than somebody who half-ass throws content up and has, you know, maybe 100 followers. Like even if you have 1,000 followers, it might not seem like a lot, but to a lot of employers that is, especially if the content is like clean, respectable, and you look like you put effort in. If you look like you brush your hair and you take care of your skin and you're active and you work out and all of these things, like that shows to an employer like they go the extra mile, versus somebody who might have like mascara running down their face and they're taking a tequila shot, right? Like who are you going to hire? So it'll get you the job that you want over the masses that don't put in the effort. If you are in the market and looking for someone special, then you're more likely to get the date again than the person that's not putting in the effort, because it's like, who do you want to spend the time with, right? Do you want to date somebody that's lazy and doesn't care, and you know, if they don't care about themselves and how they present themselves to literally the world, how are they going to respect like the relationship? So there's 2. It will boost your confidence. Like even if you don't have millions of followers, like just like putting in the effort will make you feel happier about yourself. Like think about like when you're sick and you don't look your best or feel your best, like think of how that affects you like mentally and emotionally. So it's pretty similar. If you take the effort to like say, yeah, like I deserve to eat well, and I deserve to take care of my skin, and I deserve to like you know, show the world like my best version, like that's gonna ultimately have a really deep impact on like who you are as a person. So 4 could be personal branding. So even if you have a job, I think it's really important. It's almost like your online resume. So if you keep building followers and pushing like a certain agenda or message that aligns with your industry, then you kind of look like a really big badass, right? So it's like almost like the new resume. And then 5, I would say, is it's a great way for supplemental income. So if you do want to get endorsement deals or become a social media figure, you can easily add an extra $1,000 a month just from posting if you have a proper profile. So I think those are really great ways that like can affect like your life. Those are 5 really crucial benefits. My top 5 tips for having a great social media presence would be making sure that you are proud of what you post, put in the effort. So don't just put content up to put content up. I think there's a really big misconception that you constantly have to have volume. And I think it's a lot more important to have quality than it is to have volume. So just make sure that the quality is there. Truly believe what you're pushing. So authenticity, like there's only one of you, and if you keep trying to copycat other people, it's not going to be good for growth, engagement, or just like your confidence. It's not going to be there because, again, imposter syndrome. 4, I would say to try to like keep it natural, which is really hard, especially in the beginning. Take a deep breath. I think it's a lot easier if maybe it's not like right up on your face. So take pictures that are of you doing hobbies, out in nature with friends, traveling, that kind of thing. And 5 is to just know what your end goal is. If it's to be an influencer, to have just really badass like resume online, or if you just want it to be like a proper reflection of like who you really are to the world.
And then top 5 mistakes.
Top 5 mistakes on social media from what I've seen are overposing. So not being natural, like just, it's very clear that you are just taking a photo to take a vanity photo. I think hopping on bandwagons and just like jumping on what's trending. I think that you have to have like your own voice. I think that's really important, and so much gets lost in everyone else's. I think having a private account so you can post ridiculous content is a mistake, because employers want to see your profile, and having it private doesn't do you much, like doesn't do you any good, even compared to just having like the sloppy photos out there. Like they know it's private for a reason. So having a public account with proper content. For men, it's just not posting because you don't want to be judged. So I say like, get out there, make the mistakes, try to take some photos with your friends, something that's like natural to you, and just like learn as you go, but don't like ignore it. 5, I would say maybe is overposting, which a lot of people might say is like not a thing, but I've personally unfollowed so many accounts because I feel like I'm being spammed. So we don't need to know what you're eating for every single meal of the day. Maybe if you're like at a badass restaurant and like you want to share that experience, sure, but just like understand that quality versus quantity is very important. My name is Candace Horvath, and I hope that I can bring some more confidence and self-love to the world via my selfie workshops. For more information on how to improve your social media, click the link below.